Hello, buddy. My name is Jacob, and welcome to the Epileptic Gamer Podcast. I've been debating on doing this episode for a very long time. To be honest, mainly because I don't know how to do it. Until recently. Because there is a lot of questions of, should this be done? Is it like rehashing old wounds in kind of a way? Maybe almost, and hell, in some cases, letting games die when they peak at a certain amount. That is what we're going to talk about today. Do we want to look at old IPs like Sly Cooper, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, which is getting a reboot, by the way, and Ratchet and Clank, which got an actual sequel with the PlayStation 5, and do we want to bring them back? Like, do we want a remake? Do we want a remaster? Or is it glorified nostalgia that is just going to take us... I get, what's the best word? I don't know. It's clouding our judgment in the best way. Is that what we're looking at here? Are we clamoring for it because it's glorified nostalgia? And now we're convincing ourselves that we need it? Or do we actually want it? Because there is arguments for both cases. And that's what we're going to dive into. There's a reason why I made this next level lore. There's no way in hell I can fit game sequels, remasters, and remakes all into a 20-minute episode. So this might go long. Might be the longest episode so far. Let's find out. But let's dive right into it. We're going to talk about the pros of game sequels. And we're going to start off... I was going to do Sly Cooper, but I think Uncharted is going to be the most fun to talk about just because of all the potential stuff that you could do. For example, I always had this brilliant idea that what if there was something going on Alcatraz? Like, in general, we have all those Civil War tunnels that have been mapped and explored. But what if there's something more down there? What if, at one point, Nathan gets a tip, and he goes, hey, I just came, at the salvage yard, he goes, hey, just so you know, I came back from San Francisco, and I overheard somebody saying they found something in the tunnels. Okay, we got something there. We have an idea there. And you could have so much potential with this. Exploring Alcatraz as Nathan Drake with Elena and Chloe and Sullivan, so many. You name it, you could do it. Even Sam. Like, you could do so much with just this one character. And if you wanted to fast forward and include their daughter Cassie, you could put a 7-year time jump and then you could make it work. I mean, it's perfect. Alcatraz would be the perfect way of saying, we are not going to go too crazy on this. Like, you can't go down like an Atlantis route. Because if you're doing a 7-year time jump, they're not going to be as young as it used to be. But if you're doing Alcatraz, you can get in and out. There's tours that go on in Alcatraz. So, I have a feeling if they wanted to do another Uncharted game, do it in Alcatraz. Let us explore Alcatraz. I don't know what the plot would be. Maybe have it find some lost World War II art that the Nazis apparently destroyed, but it turns out it's been under our noses the entire time in the world's most infamous prison. In America's most cruel prison that was, in my opinion, and if I were to map it out, this is the way I would do it. I would have them explain it that the Golden Gate Bridge was under construction while Alcatraz was being built, was under commission and was still being used. So who's to say the Nazis couldn't smuggle some stuff in? Who's to say that couldn't have happened overnight when no one's looking, and they could have snuck it in the tunnels? You could seal off a room and call it a day. Make that room disappear from the maps. You could do so much with this. And you would have to deal with the fallout, because if you find Nazi gold and a lot of lost art, holy shit, that's gonna cause a lot of ripples. You could do so much. The potential is there. The potential is there for an Alcatraz game, an Atlantis game. You could do a lot of stuff, and even if the actors did not want to come back, and I understand why, maybe Uncharted is a bit of a dead series, you could do a game sequel based around Alcatraz. Breaking into a prison is unheard of. Like, you cannot, like, why would you break into a prison? Breaking out of a prison is hard enough. But if you want to break into the world's most secure and infamous prison of all time, yeah, that's going to be fun. I would absolutely play that game. If they would have shown me a trailer right now saying this is Uncharted 5, like the actual, like not a spin-off, Uncharted 5, and they were going to do Cassie, Elena, Chloe, Sully, Nate, the whole cast of characters, and you had to get under Alcatraz, that is your goal, I would buy that in a heartbeat. Because not only do you get to deal with the next generation of treasure hunters with Cassie, but you get to see what Sully's been up to. You get to see what Chloe's been up to. Who knows? Maybe Chloe retired. It's a stay for hire. Maybe Nate and Elena, yes, they did retire, but maybe they are coming back for one last job. Cassie convinced them that this is one last straw that you need to get in on. You could do so much with this game. So much. And the same thing goes with Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider, you could do Atlantis, just in general. We already did Shangri-La. We've done crazier shit with Tomb Raider. So the fact that this is already getting a reboot goes to show that they have some crazy shit in mind. I'm curious to see where that's honestly going to take us. Because the 2014, or I think it's 2013, the 2013 and above trilogy was pretty damn good. Despite people not liking it. I kinda did. And even Sly Cooper. There's a lot of stuff that you could do. I mean, come on, you're left on a cliffhanger. But that comes down to the master of game sequels. Uncharted has a remaster. It has a remaster already. It's called the Legacy of Thieves Collection. You can get on the PS4. I think it has a PS5 upgrade. Don't quote me on that. But I know for a fact the episodes, games 4 and 5, or the spin-off, I guess it's technically 5, do have a PS5 make. And they are so much fun to play as. They are gorgeous to run on the PlayStation 4. And I bet you if they were on PC, they would probably sell like hotcakes. If they're not already on PC. I mean, there is so much going on here. But if you were to bring over Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, you name it, and you put it out everywhere, it's a license to print money. But there's your con. Yes, you're focusing on games that are going to get you money. You're going to get your budget back. But on the other side of the coin, where's the new IPs at? Where is the new games that we want? Yeah, it's gonna be fun playing as Nathan Drake again. It's gonna be fun playing as Sly again. I've been waiting over a decade to play as Sly. I've been waiting for such a long time to play as Sly. I cannot tell you how many times I tuned into the Game Awards hoping to see a Sly announcement. And every single time, I am disappointed. At this point, I've given up. But having Ratchet and Clank get a sequel shows that they care. But that's Ratchet and Clank. And yeah, it sold well, but that's just the thing. If it's gonna sell well, cool story, man. Yeah, that's great. But Starfield, Outer Worlds, you could do so many different games. So many. If they're focusing on the old games, the ones of yesteryear, what's the ones that are gonna bring up the new generation? Crash Bandicoot got the remake, and it did very well. Crash Team Racing got the remake, it did very well. Spyro got the remake, it did very well. Crash Team Rumble, we don't talk about that game. Let's just avoid that game in general. But that's how it is. You gotta look at this and think from the developer's perspective, is it worth it? And that's the hard reality. Is this worth it? Could we risk building a new franchise on a new game that we can make? For example, they made Spider-Man, and now they have a trilogy on their hands. They already made Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2, with a potential third one coming out. That's going to be insane. I mean, they have 4 games on the way. 1 on the way, and 3 already made. That goes to show, you take a risk with a new IP, you're going to hit the jackpot. Not always the case here, though, because you have Starfield, which gets announced at a state of play, and it completely bombs. So now we have to look at the other side of the spectrum when it comes to remakes, with Tomb Raider. It's getting a soft reboot. We had apparently a leaked glimpse of Lara Croft. I try to stay away from leaks as much as we can. So I'm just tired of doing it. I'm tired of dealing with it. Cool story, yeah, we're getting it. Fun. But when that's being made, new games aren't being made. That's a waste of resources, a waste of money. I think it should have been done at the shadow of the Tomb Raider. That should have been the cutoff point, had a good ending, rinse, repeat, done. You don't need to make a remake. That is the ultimate way of saying, I am gonna milk this damn thing till it's dry. And hopefully, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, hopefully this remake does well. The Tomb Raider trilogy, I believe, did well. And if we want to talk about remasters, let's talk about the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. It's a terrible. So many bugs. So many that they issued refunds to a lot of people. I mean, come on. It's not fair anymore. Why should I give a damn about having a remaster of a game that I love when I could go and buy a PS2 or PlayStation 1 and buy it myself there? There's not a whole lot of reason to. And there's your dilemma. There is the reason why we're not going to get Uncharted 5 or a Sly Cooper 5, which, or another reboot, or another Sly Cooper game, or another Spyro game, or another Crash Bandicoot game, which apparently was in the works as a crossover between Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, but got cancelled. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we need to consider here. There really is. at the same time, there's that other side of the coin of we're always clamoring for the next big thing. We always want the next big thing. At the same time, we always want to see our old favorites come back. Because that's just the way it is. It's our favorites. It's the mascots that we grew up with. It's the games that we grew up with. The game characters that we love. It's them seeing them back on the PlayStation 5, for example. On Steam, on Xbox. Name it. You can probably apply it to this situation. Seeing them come back onto a brand new console generation is amazing. It is. That's just the kicker, though. If you were to take that out of the equation and you were to never see them again, we might have flop after flop after flop. And people are going to bring up Concord. I can almost guarantee that's going to be the first thing that's going to be like, oh, well, Sony tried something new with Concord and they failed. I'm going to counter with this. They should not have released it on Steam. That was the biggest failure, in my opinion. If it was a PlayStation 5 and Xbox exclusive, it would have done much better. It would have. I think that's the reason why it's not doing too well. They didn't advertise well on Steam, and with all these games on Steam, Concord isn't going to get that higher on the list of an advertisement. I mean, I don't remember seeing an advertisement for Concord on Steam, or even the Epic Games Store. Anywhere. I don't remember seeing it. But whatever the case may be, you need to look at it as, yeah, it's fun to see our game. It's fun to see Sly come back, Bentley and Murray and Carmelita. It's fun to see those characters come back. It'll be fun to see Nathan Drake, Elena Fisher, Chloe Frazier, Sam, Victor Sullivan. It's going to be fun to see them all. That would be great to see them all again. In a brand new game, brand new story. Absolutely, if you were to release Alcatraz Uncharted game right now, I'm first obliged to buy it. Guarantee you that. Pardon the helicopter. My window is open and I did not know it was open. So, wait for it. Still going. It's still going. Wait. Are we good? I think we're good. And you know what? I want to take it out. I want to take that helicopter out of the episode, but I'm going to leave it in. Not just because it's a time filler. You get to see a little bit of behind the scenes and how the podcast gets made. See a fourth wall, but let's continue. Yeah, so that is the whole situation behind this. It would be so much fun to play as Nathan Drake again. Go under Alcatraz and find some World War II lost treasure that the Nazis put under there. It would be amazing. I mean, imagine getting to work with the Monuments Men to have them come down with you into this ancient bunker that's been lost to time. And you can find Portrait of a Young Man. Or Madonna with Child by, I forget what the artist's name is, but it doesn't tip my tongue. But you can see these paintings that are lost to time. And Sam even says it to Nathan. Lost means something can be found again. Gone means it's done. You'll never see it again. That's why they all, even if you see the paintings referred to as lost, they are determined to make sure they see them again. This would be the perfect way of keeping that alive. Even if it was just for a bit. It gives you that satisfaction of, hey, I told you so. Just because something is lost doesn't mean you can't find it. And you just found the most important thing in history when it comes to World War II lost art. It would be such a cool payoff. Yeah, and I mean, it also ties into the game's history, or just history in general. Uncharted with Alcatraz heist? Yes, sign me up. Sly Cooper getting him out of Egypt? Yes, sign me up. Ratchet and Clank doing different worlds with different Lombaxes? With Rivet and Ratchet? Yes, sign me up. I would love another story with them. Tomb Raider. I would love to see where they're going to go with this, with the new reboot. Personally, I would like to see Atlantis. I had the idea that maybe the Bermuda Triangle was part of it. That's a fun idea. I was just spitballing around. It's like, well, what happens if the Bermuda Triangle, all the disappearances are actually Atlantean technology? They get too close and they have to shoot it down. That would be a pretty cool idea for the game. And how do you get there? And how does lore find it? A lot of this stuff could be perfect. I would love to see that. But when you do that, when you make game sequels that are from older games from previous generations, you don't get newer games like Starfield. You don't get newer games like Spider-Man. And more importantly, you're never going to get newer games like Wolverine that is supposed to be coming out soon. The Wonder Woman game, which I don't even know if it's coming out at all anymore. Haven't heard anything new on that end. So much that you'll never see if you keep sticking to this old formula. That's why PlayStation does the Classics catalog. So you can be playing those games. It is just... I don't even know how to describe it. But it's one of those things where it's lovely to have. It would be amazing to have. I mean, describing Alcatraz and how I could do it with Uncharted, that'd be one hell of a game. I would love, if they were to come to me and say, hey, help us write it, the amount of ideas I could pitch, oh my god, I'd love to work on that. That would be such a fun project. But that's just it. Just because it's a fun project doesn't mean it's going to succeed. Concord's proof of that. It doesn't succeed on Steam. Just recently, there was 168 people in a game. That's on PC. It might be in the top 50 on PlayStation. Cool story, but this game just came out recently, and now we have a whole lineup of new games coming. So that might get shot down relatively fast. This was the weekend before anything. Like, this is the weekend to get it. Make yourself known. But they didn't. And now they can either reap the benefits, and by playing it safe and sorry, by getting too many things out there, or maybe they're just giving up. And I don't think they're giving up. I really don't. If they were giving up, I think they'd be putting so much out there just to see what sticks. And I don't think Concord has that. I don't give that feel from the developers. I think they care about this game. I am not defending what they said on Twitter about the consumers. I am not. I think there should be a fireable offense. And hell, I don't know if people did get fired because of that. But that is the pros and cons of what we are looking at when it comes to game sequels and remakes and remakes. Like, you're remaking Until Dawn. That game came out in the PS4. It does not need a remake. And the selling point is, well, you can have different camera angles to see different areas better. Okay. It's still the same game, and you're charging me full price for the game. Why should I buy that? Give me a reason to buy that. Updated visuals. Okay. Cool. I still don't see a reason to buy it. If I can play it for free with PlayStation Plus, I'm gonna play it for free with PlayStation Plus. I'm not gonna buy the PlayStation 5 version for $60 or whatever the pricing it has. I know it's full price though, at least. There's no reason for me to do that. And that's why I think you have Dark Pictures Anthology, who I think is the same people that made Until Dawn. It is such a good way of preserving what's there. At the same time, there's some games that you need to let rest. Tomb Raider is the perfect example of that. You need to let Laura die. Even if I don't know what the storyline is going to be for the reboot. Don't know if they've released a plot for it. Maybe this is the time where they let Laura die. Maybe she doesn't make it out in time. Maybe she actually does die. I don't know. We'll find out eventually. But you see all these new games coming out that are doing great. We don't get those new games that are doing great if we get game sequels that are older games. I mean, that's not fair to consumers that want new games. Yeah, it's cool to see them again, like I said before. But that's just it. Like, okay, we get Sly out of Egypt. What's next? Yeah, I'm drawing a blank too. And I'm sure a lot of you are too. It's like, okay, well, you can reunite him with Carmelita and his friends. Okay. What's next? I mean, I can draw a blank constantly. If I were to keep going, like, and I remember I was on Reddit a few days ago, and I saw somebody say, we never saw Neela's body from Sly Cooper 2. So maybe she survived the clockwork crash. Alright, I can see how that could work. But how does she play into the story? How does she know Sly is back? Or was she stuck in Egypt? How does she know that Sly is stuck in Egypt? Because I can sure as hell, I've been double crossed by her a shitload of times. I ain't trusting her again. And maybe that's the game's conflict. I don't know. This is me spitballing on a game that I don't know how you would do the story. That's why Thieves in Time is so divided. People like the story. At the same time, people also hate the story. It's one of those games that is going to be looked at as one of the most divisive games of all time. Same thing with The Last of Us Part 2. They're going to make a Part 3. They are going to make a Last of Us Part 3. And people are going to freak out when that happens. And they might call for their heads again. No pun intended on the head joke with Joe. I did not even see that coming. But, yeah, I think that's just it. You have to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Remastering The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't necessary. I mean, it came out in 2020, I think? 2020, 2021, and it's 2024. I mean, I can see why if you're doing it for the TV show. I can see why there. That makes sense. If you were to say, hey, this is for the TV show, makes sense. But they never said that. Which gave people the impression that this is a cash grab. And maybe it wasn't, and maybe it was for the TV show. There was a lot of people that said that it was good. I have it installed. I haven't gotten around to play it yet because a lot of games came out. But I don't think it needed to be remade. I think it was fine as is. Last of Us Part 1. It gets remade and does extremely well. It gets ported over to PC. And what happens? Oh, we don't talk about what happens. It fails miserably. Game crashing bugs. Even, like, All these textures are going all over the place. You name it, it's probably broken. Even Horizon Forbidden West and Horizon Zero Dawn. That is one of those things where you need to look at it. It's like, yeah, we're going to get a game sequel for that. They set up a third sequel. Even with the DLC, they basically confirmed, yes, a third game is happening. No problem. But what happens when that game comes? We're going to have to deal with the fact that we're not getting any new IPs. And it sucks. It really does. Because you have so much being done. So much. And that's where I call it the God of War syndrome. You have a story going along that is so perfect, so well written, and you think you can expand on that. And when you do, it becomes a critically acclaimed success. Are they going to go down the Last of Us route where they're going to remake it? There's a question. Because if they do remake it, it could have a lot of game-breaking bugs. It could have a lot of, just in general, terrible mechanics like it used to. And, not like it used to, but like most games, like most remakes used to have. And even Tomb Raider, it might not be well. It might not do good. And that's what's worrying me the most. Like, what happens next? That's the issue. What's next? What are you going to do that is going to be the biggest thing? You finish off the Uncharted series with Elena and Nate having a daughter. She's 11. Cool. But you can expand on that. And I believe you should. And that's one of the cases where, yeah, if you were to do a 7-year time jump, you could have Nate and Elena take a step back and maybe take Cassie. You could play as Cassie. And, or better yet, you can even switch between every character. That is one of the things that you have when you have that big of a cast. And like, you can even, you can say within the 7 years, this is what happened in the, like a cutscene. 7 years later, this is what happened. And the very first thing you see is a headline. Thief for Hire retires. Unknown name. But we instantly know that's Chloe. Chloe retired. That introduces how we can get Chloe into the game. Where's Victor at? Well, where's Sully at? I mean, that's a simple enough question. He's probably going to be around somewhere. We know he's around when Cassie is 11 years old. What's to stop him from being around when she's 18 years old? We know, I don't know, and I haven't finished Uncharted 4, so I don't know if Sam is still around. But if you introduced Sam into this game, somehow, some way, maybe he could be the one that screws you over. Not Chloe anymore. Not the double turn that you might have. Maybe she's the one that is finally straight and narrow, but Sam, on the other hand, isn't. He's the one that is kind of in that gray area of, I want this next big job. I mean, you could do so much with games like this. And that's why I think publishers and game developers see dollar signs. That's why they're making game sequels to games that aren't needed. I mean, it sucks. That's the way it is. There's the positive side of the coin, but every positive side of the coin has a negative side, and the negative side is this. It either tarnishes the legacy of the game that you're getting a remake of, or it draws back from that studio working on a game that they were helping on making, and that game that they were helping on flops. That's the drawback of it. And that is the pure and brutal truth around this. The pros and cons of every video game sequel remaster, remake, you name it, everything. It's a double-edged sword. It's fun to see your favorite game characters back. And I am convinced, I am dead set convinced that Sly Cooper will be back. And it will be fun to play as him again. But what happens next? What happens when you finish Sly Cooper 5 and you realize it's over? It's over. And it's the same thing with Uncharted 5. What happens when you realize it's over? It's going to be bittersweet. And that's just the way it is. That's the way it's always going to be. And it's a shame. Because you have to have a conclusive ending. And I think they did a good job with Uncharted 4. Especially with the epilogue, having Elena and Nate finally settle down. They have a kid. Whole 9 yards. They're done. But Cassie becomes 18. She wants to know what that thrill is like. They're not going out of the country, but they can do a local job. And that local job is San Francisco, Alcatraz. You could do a lot with that. And I feel like it would be incredibly fun. So much fun that you could almost give it like a co-op kind of feel. Like how they did in No Way Out. But that's just me. I understand I talked about Uncharted a lot, but that's mainly the reason why I can talk about it, because I know the most about it at this time. I can't think of a plot line for Sly Cooper that would make sense. I can't think of a plot line for Tomb Raider for a reboot that would make sense. I can't think of a plot line for Ratchet and Clank that would make sense. That is the hard thing about having remasters. You cannot get a remake if the remasters fail. You cannot do a game sequel if the sequel before that fails. And that might be why we never see a Sly Cooper 5. That might be why we just see a Sly Cooper 1, 2, 3, and 4 get remade. And that sucks. It really does suck. Because you can do so much with Sly Cooper right now. The technology you have, the worlds inside Sly Cooper. Imagine the graphics that you can make with a lot of those worlds. A lot of those worlds that you have with Sly Cooper. Man, don't get me started. You could pull off incredible worlds. But that is it for this episode with Epileptic Gamer. My name is Jacob, also known as the Epileptic Gamer, and I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you for enjoying it, and I hope you have a great September. Bye-bye.